two. Please join me for the playful. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of
of the United States of America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See, I can switch him. Can I not down here? Thank you. Need a motion to approve the February 25th agenda, please. Discussion. This would be the time if you have questions or anything. I don't know if you want to address this. If you have questions about the vouchers, donations, anything within the consent agenda, bring it up now. So then,
So let me clarify.
we're both right.
Let me clarify. Look, the consent agenda is designed to be, we don't discuss it, we just approve. So what she's trying to suggest is that if there was concerns in that, we would then move to amend the agenda to pull something out. Yeah.
But yeah, you would move to pull, items A, B, and C out for further discussion, and that would be like questions and that kind of thing. I mean, historically we've asked questions in the discussion period after a second motion. So anyway, I know we're doing it wrong, but I don't know if Chris Reichdahl's going to show up any minute to tell us. Yeah, show up with the paddle of education.
I'm still learning too.
Well, I mean, forever we've kind of done it that way. So, and it seems to have worked, but
All righty. Taking to a vote, please. For the approval agenda.
for
All in
approval.
favor?
Aye.
And then we've got visitors today. Hi guys. Hi. I don't think Oh, Gracie Pierce and Lydia Olson.
All right, let's start with Lydia. Stacy, why don't you come up, Lydia? If you can stand and put the picture right in there.
Hi,
Oh,
this is Lisa. Lydia is my student of the month for TK. She has been a very responsible TK student from day one. She loves to be helpful. What's your favorite part of TK? That's painting. Painting, yes, you like this class. Yeah. What's your favorite thing to do with your friends? Play, yes. So, yes, she's always very responsible, very kind, and loves being here at school.
So I have a certificate for you.
You
You don't even. So I'm going to say, congratulations, good job. What a great way to start your education. Good job. So we wanted to get a couple of pictures. Mom and Dad, you want to come up and get a picture there, and then we'll get a picture with the superstar at the board as well. Sorry.
now make sure to have that certificate bronzed.
Okay, awesome. And we'd like to get a picture. All these guys want to get a picture with you. Okay, yeah, all right. Come on over. There's-
She's so tiny.
Yeah, I'm never trying. There you go.
Ready, 1, 2, 3, cheese. One more. Ready, 1, 2, 3, cheese. Got it.
Yeah.
Yay. That's awesome.
Gracie, please join me in this place of honor. This is my dear sweet Gracie. She is a Grapeview gator through and through. Respectful, responsible, safe, and kind. She leads by example. She is fair and honest. She completes her best work all day, every day without a complaint or hesitation. Her friends look up to her, and I can always count on her to do the right thing she knows in her heart, even if I'm not looking. And she also has a really big responsibility of being a teacher's daughter, which I know we don't really make a big deal about often, but because you're a teacher's daughter, people look to you to be a leader and to be gracious and kind, and you do that naturally. And so you were an easy pick for this beautiful award. Student of the month, Grace. Yeah.
It's like the rest of the family. Sorry.
Look at them
All
all.
right, you come on up and get your punch.
Family. John, please get it to me. I got it. No, great. Baby, get in here. Okay, everyone, 2, 3, cheese. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Gators, gators, cheese gators, cheese gators, cheese gators.
Now, one more picture, the board wants to get a picture. No, you can't. Squeeze in.
We all say,
Sure.
let's all squeeze, okay?
We're right.
Let's get together.
Protocol.
It's all of us. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Cheese gators and one more.
Get her.
1, 2, 3 gators. There we go. Good job. I didn't say I'm reading it in time.
Nice job.
Good job, sweet girl. Keep up the good work.
Yay! Good job, you guys.
Thank you for hosting us. Hey, someday I'll stay for a whole one. I mean, have fun. Oh, favorite part.
You know, it comes to the post comment, it's always good to say a little, much sense means.
And how involved parents are in teaching. No. Thank you very much. So we move on down to staff presentation. Cindy. Wait, Miss Cindy. It's good. No, I have a black and white copy here that you should. Would you like one?
Go back and listen.
Do you want it? Okay. So the data can be there. There's no.
And then start.
Seeing here.
Which one is she?
So you see a few extra slides in there that I skipped in the presentation, but I'll explain it. Wes, I will have Brittany send this to you, or maybe.
Oh, just hand it to me.
Yeah. I'll throw it at you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. So, this is our mid-year data, which is exciting. I feel like in the fall, I went over this data with you guys and it was a hard transition because we're used to Star Renaissance Place. And now iReady, we're piloting, but go ahead. I think I found a way to kind of explain this. So, we're moving from STAR Renaissance Place, STAR Reading, STAR Math, Early Literacy to iReady. Right now, we have a full year pilot. No cost to us, but we also have access to my path for reading and math. I'll go over that a little bit later, what that means and what kind of data that gives us. But that's our switch this year. It was a good opportunity to see if we could find something that would predict maybe SBA proficiency a little bit more than Renaissance Place. All right, go for it. So here are the key differences that I don't think I was able to articulate in the fall. STAR is a norm referenced assessment. Think IQ tests, how a student performs compared to that of a norm group, a larger group, a peer, their same age, same grade, taking the same test nationwide. Okay. And so it answers the question, how does this student perform compared to others? So now we're moving to iReady, which is totally different. It measures student performance, not against their peers, but against the specific learning objectives. So it answers the question, did I master the content?
Mhm.
For educators, what's helpful? Knowing how their percentile ranking in the nation or what they're ultimately assessed on, which is standards. So think of our SBA test. That is criterion reference assessment, yes.
So is it directly relatable then to how they're gonna do on the standardized tests?
It has that predictor. So yes, it is relatable. What we were finding, the problem with STAR is every year it's like we get the scores back and we're like, hey, this child scored 12th grade 9th month in ELA and they scored a 2 on reading. This wasn't every case, but those
Sure.
did pop up and we're like, then what's the point of the diagnostic, right? If we can't inform our instruction. So it made us feel good in the moment, but it wasn't helpful.
So if you got a 2,
Mhm.
then is it based, then you could go back to the criteria and fix that, yes, you scored low because of this area on what you answered? Is that?
On the state test,
Yeah,
or how
on
this correlates.
how this correlates.
So I have a slide that I can show you, but basically, if we're testing students for SBA on their grade level standards,
Okay,
then this test also assesses them on grade level standards. And so it will show us the gaps in learning. And it has a predictive model where I can toggle on. If they achieve typical growth, what's their projected proficiency on SBA testing? Because it's all based around the same thing, standards. We didn't have that kind of data with STAR, which was a downfall because all we had was how do they compare to the peers? So that does nothing for us in Washington State taking our standardized tests. Yes.
so you can take action based on,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah. And we don't have to wait for SBA for that data,
okay,
which is what we were kind of having to do.
okay.
Yeah. So iReady criterion reference standards, did they master the content? So here's a picture kind of show you. This is norm reference test on the left. If proficiency is a 50, and here are all the students in the nation that took the same test, same age group. This student, even though scored a 40, let's say proficiency is 50, and now they're in the 97th percentile. But in the criterion reference test, you see if that's the cut score, they're below proficient. So for us as educators and me as the principal, I need to know standards, what we're ultimately tested on. So if we know a student's percentile rank, we can tell how well they did and compared to their peers, but will not tell if the student met or exceeded or fell short of proficiency on the standards. All right, so I have a few different pages. One is district overall, and then grade level, split into grade level, and then I go over personalized instruction a little bit. I have a little key, because this looks so different, on each slide, but you'll see on the bottom is the fall testing, benchmark testing. So right when they get into school, first time ever they've taken this test. Most recent is our winter checkpoint. We'll have one more for spring. So we'll actually be able to see all three. So you can see here, is this a certain grade level or is this everybody? K through 8. And the good thing now is kindergarten and first grade actually have reading and math separated instead of that early literacy, which was hard to compare. So you can see that this is reading. The beginning of the year, we had 20%, about 31 students. Now we have 31 students, but we had 43 students testing this 3 or more grade levels. So you can see that we're shortening those gaps. So now we're down to 15%. So 5% difference. This has stayed the same in reading, 4% difference there, another 4 that we're moving students on, kind of closing those gaps. Yes.
So if you add the 39 students and 31 students, you have 70 students that are below proficiency.
This, I've spent a lot of time with already, people. They said the one grade level below isn't so much of a concern to worry about. You have to dig into the data because it's all of your standards. If this is that big chunk of yellow for spring, then
We got some work to do.
yes,
Okay.
then that truly is one
But
grade
in the
level.
red, I'm speaking of in the red.
Oh, you're speaking in the red.
The red where it says 39 students, 31 students. That is where they are those 70 students are performing below
Mhm.
their grade level.
They are. Yep.
And there's a plan to
Mhm.
help them along. Yeah.
Yeah, and this isn't new. We've always had the students
No,
who
but
we
it said-
target, yes.
70 students out of 200 or 240.
Think about it as all your standards. It's hard.
Okay.
It's hard, but we only have 2 data checkpoints too. Once you get more into the system, I've been talking to other people that use iReady, Central, Chehalis has been using it for 8 years now, and I've talked to that principal. The more data that they have in the system, they can really project those student outcomes. And this has a lot to do with meeting their stretch growth, typical growth. Yeah. So. Yeah, red's not good. But
it's good that we can see it. We couldn't see that before.
yeah, exactly. And so math, though, we're closing some gaps here. So at the beginning, we had 20%, now we're at 13. So you kind of see how it's progressing through the colors, I guess, but the
Is
gaps.
that what the shaded is?
Yep,
Okay.
the shade, it's hard to see.
Yeah.
Shaded or the lines 3 or more grade levels below. And then the red is 2 grade levels below. And then yellow is 1 grade level below. I don't know what that is. And like I said, they weren't worried about the yellow. They're like, it assumes a full year of learning.
So
So
does iReady alert you if we are like, if our students are doing really bad, do they let you know like, hey, this is where we need intervention or this is where it needs attention? Do they come back and advise you on that?
this isn't just a diagnostic like we had with STAR. It comes with intervention resources that are tailored to the student, which I will go over after the classroom data. I'll show you what that looks like. I screenshot the student's data so you can see. Okay, let's go for it. Kimberly, yeah.
One,
Yes.
in the yellow, and it looks like on either end, we've made improvements. In the middle, does it read that way because we went from 2 grade levels below to 1 grade level, so the 1 grade level below increased because we had people moving from the 2 grade level to 1?
Yes.
Is that why?
Yes.
So really, it's a good story on that bottom end.
Yes.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Completely. We don't have, yeah, could you go back? Yes, exactly, because there's fewer students now in this, so we started off with 43 students in 3 or more grade levels, so now we're at 31. That's why
That explains it much better.
Okay, that's where I missed that.
Much better.
So we went from 38 to 39, however, they're moving.
That's how I read that. I just wanted to make sure you would look at this and you say, hey, we're doing worse. But in reality, we're doing better because there are less people or less students that are 2 grade levels below.
Yes, yeah.
Should be from the top where it says from 30 students, that should be in bold. And then underneath it goes to 35 students where it shows the reduction instead of you're going, okay, well, 39 students, we still got work to do. Totally, you know what I mean?
I can make that change for the spring data.
I need maybe
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
So can you, I know, do you know what students you're working with on here?
Yes.
So okay, so this data is, you can directly point to Smith, Jones, whoever, right?
Yes.
And that's where you need to, okay.
absolutely. And we have PLC dissecting this data. We had iReady, actually for our staff professional development day, was that Austin? We have iReady trainer virtually show us how to dig into the data. And so, yeah, it's worth it. Go for it. Okay, kindergarten's up. I just did 1 slide instead of 2. Top is always going to be reading, and then bottom is math. You'll see no red, okay? That means there's no possible way for them to be more than 3 or more grade levels below. They're in kindergarten. So you'll never see red in kindergarten. So right now, 43, we went from 70%, what they qualify as 1 grade level below, to 43%. And 26 to 48%. I don't need to read all those, but if you have questions about the reading, let me know. Yeah, really good growth there.
So when you talk about a math for a kindergartner, I'm a little confused by that. It's arithmetic, it's counting.
Lots of it. There's sorting, there's shapes, there's quantifying, there's cardinality.
Circle versus square versus triangle.
And
Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to get my head.
okay, so that's reading on top, and then math. I will tell you, math has been an area that we identified in the kindergarten classroom. I know I've been working directly with, so we saw that and we're working on it because that's not as much growth as we would like. You have if I may, you have this one that I didn't put in the slides, but you can see the percent. We want that number to be at 50 in a perfect world. That median student would be making 50% growth. Okay, so you can see on kindergartens, it's 5%. That's an area of growth. So we've identified that and we're working on it. So the next page on that is the one that's up here. So remember I said you'll have extra slides, that was extra. Okay. Ready to move on to first grade?
Mhm.
All right, first grade. You'll see some number discrepancies. We've had kids in and out of some of these grade levels. I wish that we could start them with the same students. That's not practical, but you won't see 3 or more grade levels below for them either, but you start to see 2 grade levels below. In reading, they're making some awesome growth.
So it's actually 75% of the kids are either above the first grade performance or within the early on gradient. Is that right? Is that what I'm looking at here? This 15% is represented here, and then it can slide over it. Is that where I'm 15 to 16? Is that what is that how you should be reading that?
Yeah, the yellow, I wish I would have made color copies, but the yellow is what they call 1 grade level below.
Okay.
But what we're actually not so worried about because it's a whole year's worth of learning standards. So yes, they're reading that correctly. Okay, any questions about first grade?
So again, the progress to annual typical growth, at least in November, was 28% of these kids were showing that.
Our first grade class is a unique group of learners. They've had a lot of incredible growth, important growth, ability to access education that didn't exist before in their little lives. It's a diverse group of learners. So we have students with visual impairments, hearing impairments that are accessing their education. So there's a lot of other goals that have been met in first grade that maybe don't show up as reading and math, but I need to tell you that they are making incredible strides in being able to even access their education. But she's doing a lot of great things to reach those kids. All right. Wes, questions so far? Second grade.
Sorry, I was muted. No questions.
Okay. All right, second grade. This class, if you see on that page, they have met their growth target. They're right on point, and then the same thing with math. This class maybe started off as lower performing is how they would classify it, but maybe lower performing higher. So it's incredible.
What's the reason? I mean, really, if you could bottle that or whatever,
They have a really experienced teacher.
Okay.
Really strong routines and ready to learn. Yeah.
I was just interested if you can quantify, why, right? Because you want to know, right?
Yeah, in second grade, it's just one of those years where they start to take
Catch on.
ownership and they're like, I'm almost a big kid. It's their last year in this little TK2 pod. So they're taking ownership of their grade. So it's really cool year. Okay, great. Third grade. Third grade, if you remember at the beginning of the year, was one of those cohorts that we had our eyes on. So we are still making some growth. Math is
I was just gonna say that math is not trending on either of them, or is that due to the curriculum that we have right now?
we are in a pilot year, which can be dysfunctional. And you know that going into it, but yes.
Are we making right choices for said curriculum?
Yes, I'm very excited. Okay. And some teachers are already trying that out, but what's missing in our math curriculum is some conceptual understanding to reach some of those learners that maybe can't access all of the heavy reading and things. They need models actually to bring the math to life. And that's what we're finding with our new curriculum.
more hands-on and more visuals.
For background,
Mhm.
conceptually wise, what? Third grade math, can you help me?
Area, perimeter,
Okay,
multiplication,
Okay.
division, very basic, but what does division mean? You
okay,
know, the curriculum we're trying now has these simulations and models that show, okay, when I put items into equal groups, that's division. It makes it real world.
okay.
So it's good, but yeah, they've got our eye on it for sure. And the last slide will tell you what we're doing to solve this.
When you look over there, the student success versus total, 22 out of 23.
Yeah.
Does that mean that somebody is confused and be corrected?
No,
Okay.
it just, we've had a student lead that class. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just went
Yeah, I'm just,
somewhere else. Yeah.
just cancel stuff.
Yeah, no one's refused yet. All right, fourth grade. Fourth grade's another one of those. That's reading. I think if you click again, there we go. Sit like that. If you have questions, just let me know.
So when you look at that fourth grade on that slide that you don't have there, the fourth grade, the reading looks like only 9%.
Yeah.
I mean, a real challenge, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then in math, they actually show considerable improvement.
Mhm.
Does comprehension drive the reading score? Is that what it is? Is that what's driving these comprehension after you read something? Question asked.
Yeah, comprehension is a big part of it, but then being able to read the passage, the grade level passage, right?
And understanding.
Yeah, yeah, and then there's speaking and listening skills, there's grammar in there. But comprehension, of course, is
So-
huge.
Is this a function of the third grade group last year was behind and it's an error carried forward? We're still struggling with that.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you look at SB scores from last year, I went into this year knowing.
The fourth grade.
Yeah, yes,
Okay,
yeah. One class per grade, you know those trends.
you see it.
Yes. You come in prepared. Yeah. Okay. Fifth grade, if you look at their growth off the chart, or
One last question.
Yeah.
So do we have any, so if we know a grade, a class is going to be behind, do we add educators to that class? FTEs, a para to help? Do we do that? So
yeah, I'm gonna go over that in,
oh, so that's the question.
yeah,
Oh,
the next steps.
sorry.
Yes, no, you didn't flip to the end of the presentation, you're okay. Yeah, we utilize and leverage our resources, yeah. Okay, fifth grade's making incredible growth, you can see that,
How do you get 113?
you rock it, you know, because in iReady, they have a typical growth model and stretch growth is an ambitious but achievable goal. It means that these kids mostly all made their typical growth goal already. So that can mean a couple of things. They tested really low in the beginning, or they are just, it's clicking.
But yet their rating was off the chart.
Mm-hmm.
And their math
Mm-hmm.
is below expectations.
Yeah, yep.
So can you still challenge them in reading then? Is that what you're telling me the curriculum
Yes.
allows?
Yes. Yes, we differentiate at all time. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sixth grade. Middle school, this is another one of the cohorts. That struggled last year. So, you can.
Making some ground in math.
Yes, yep, they sure are. They're working really hard. It was a hard start to the year for the sixth grade class, but they're getting it.
Well, when you look at, so when you look at that sixth grade math score, in November, You had mentioned 0% in the reading ahead, or the math ahead.
Yeah,
Now you're 4%, 14 when you go to 11, and now we can go to 6, 14 for 7, 43 to 32. So,
mhm,
so again, there's movement.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
And so, if I read this right, about 1/3 are reading 3 or more grade levels below and are doing math 3 or more grade levels below.
Yes, yeah.
So are they the same students?
Not always, but yes, the majority of the time. Mhm.
Is it? How would you categorize that bottom third?
I can tell you, the kids that we've had since, that have been Grapeview for their school careers. We track and we catch and we intervene, early. Okay, everyone knows their name, they're on our radar. When we have new students come in, that can be difficult because maybe we see quite a lot more of our new students coming into the district. Yeah, where maybe those early interventions or they moved around a lot, so many different factors, you can't just lump it up.
Sure. No, so is this a new by and large, a new student story?
A lot of the times, yes, but also we have students who are being served with IEPs, they're identified on IEPs, they receive SDI, specially designed instruction, they have learning disabilities.
Well, that's my
Yeah.
question. My other question was, is this just a function of IEP learning disability, this bottom third? But what I can't see
Mhm,
is what that is.
mhm, yes.
So
The IEP's learning disability vice
Mhm.
just a function of not, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to figure that out in my head.
They have to have a disability, right? So I don't know the function, it's hard to generalize.
I'm sitting here thinking, the family, the kids are not performing to expectations, so let's give Grapeview a shot to see what they can do.
I think we're a side after school, yes.
So I'm just sitting here.
This fall.
As, can I say something too, as the grades get larger, or as the grades go on, the class sizes get bigger over the years too. So that goes back to what Ms. Breeze was saying, is like the sixth graders, there may have been 4 this year that have started at the school and not have been at Grapeview since 5th grade or 4th grade or even 2nd grade, right? Yeah, that, and we're triaging as we go, yeah.
So the good news, we have tutored with nearly 40 kids. The bad news is they're not all indigenous to our progression.
Yeah, but they become a part of our system.
Yeah, no,
And there are
that's-
some stories, personal stories of kids who come to our school that have just thrived, and yeah, so we just try to target. We had a big conversation as a teaching staff on Wednesday. We have to intervene here, primary, so that we don't have 6th graders going to 6th grade who cannot read.
Mhm.
And that's kind of my question is this 6th grade, these 30% of 1/3 of the kids, do you think, is that just going to be because of the IEP learning disabilities? It's going to be that way through 7th and 8th. I mean, onesie, twosie, I'm sure, whatever, but I mean, if you think, is that just where we are with the with the kids that are there?
So we have high expectations for all students. It could be, but we don't, proficiency is great, but growth is even better in our world. Because we do have to recognize that there are students who struggle to learn in this, you know, system of traditional education. Okay, so if we keep seeing growth, those gaps will ultimately close. Okay, we have that expectation. I had a student I taught in 4th grade last year. We celebrated and it was a huge deal. For the first time ever in his whole SBA testing career, moved from a 1 to a 2. You have no idea how big that is. So there are wins and we have to focus on the growth.
I hear what you're saying, Cindy.
Yeah, I don't know if I answered it.
No, I hear what you're saying, and I hear the positive spin to it, and really just what I'm asking is just the reality of it. Is, I mean, okay,
It could, yes. Because on testing, you get some accommodations, but it is still a standardized test.
Okay.
Does that make?
Fair, no,
Yeah,
I'm just asking.
I-
What I'm trying to figure out, and it's just me talking, is that and I know we never want to say that we're satisfied with 30% of our kids reading or doing math at 3 grade levels below, but the reality is that we'll take the small wins
Mhm.
that we can on those because they're hard wins.
Yes.
And that's kind of what I'm hearing. Is that right?
Yeah. All right. Go for it. 7th grade. They're rocking it.
Well,
Hold on.
I mean, when you look at that overall reading and math assessment, 11783 for that 7th graders, that's the slide that happened to be part of our pack.
Yeah.
So they have the exceptional.
We want 50%, and that's at median students, so if you lined up all the students and took the very middle one. We want that student to be at 50% growth at this point in the year. They're at 117% and 83%, so they surpassed that.
And 83 in the math.
Yeah. Good. It's great.
Does it surprise you based on their last year's performance?
No.
Okay.
It's just a data point for me. Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah, I'm
Okay.
picturing the kids and you're seeing the data, you know, those are valid questions. Yeah,
You'll start seeing the trends do when it's the 7th graders tend to be a strong
Well,
class.
and I'm just saying, the reason I asked this question is because 7th grade this year and 7th grade next year could be a totally different story.
it will be a totally different story, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And so when I come in, I'm gonna see that we talked about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. One class further, yeah, you're gonna see that. Okay, 8th grade. This is one of this is one of our wins. I know this was that 3rd grade, 6th grade cohort back when even they were in 3rd grade, okay? This class has closed some gaps since being here. They're 8th graders, but they may have been lower performing as a cohort, but their growth has been insane.
125, 175, give me nothing.
Yes, and if you, and I hope you guys are here for a really long time so that you can see some of these personal wins and look at this cohort, like the 3rd grade cohort years down the line and see that they made this type of growth.
When you say cohort, what do you mean?
Class, like
Is it a single class or is it
Yes.
multiple classes?
no, just one class.
Okay, you
Yeah.
use the word cohort instead of class just because. It's just interesting. I'm
I'm just using the term.
looking at that, so it's fine.
This class I taught in 4th grade. You know. They worked hard, but this is incredible. This is the class where I said for the first time last year, went from a 1 to a 2 on SBA test, so it's incredible. All right, next. All right, so here are next steps. We arranged after our linear data, we arranged our student services schedule. We have paraeducators running small groups, very intentional small groups in grades 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Kindergarten receives Miss Severance time and also some additional paraeducator time for math. These groups are in addition to LAB, which is the Learning Assistance Program. This is on top of. We're continuing to dive into that assessment to tailor instruction. The next part I'm going to go over is the MindPath, which is a tool that we use to differentiate instruction, which means what this kid needs is different from this kid. So meets everyone's needs. We review those data points every week. We're creating common instructional routines and we're getting new math curriculum.
Eighth grade concerns about, I didn't see anything on the eighth grade when 38% are reading 3 grade levels below.
So we didn't change their support. They still have paraeducator. They
Okay.
started the whole year with a paraeducator
Okay.
in their core
Already.
classes. Already have it.
In eighth grade.
Yeah. Miss Katie. Okay. This one real quick. This is the personalized instruction. Middle school students are doing this during what I need time. This is what I see when I go into their data 6th through 8th grade. I can see how many minutes they're on and how many students are passing their lessons. So if you go to the next slide, this is one student in reading, grade 7. This is a student who scored right at grade level at the beginning of the year. Okay. So he's working on this, and you can see the teacher can see that, okay, he's working out lessons at his level. He's passed 22 out of 25. You can look at this data, and then I'm hoping I put it on go over 1, maybe 2. Okay. So this is math, and I'll go back if you need to, but this is also what the teacher sees. She can see, or he can see when they level up. And then if they get stuck, they can click and see exactly the lesson and the resources attached that will help close the gaps. So this is instruction exactly at the student's level, what they may have missed in long division in 4th grade, whatever they need to work on, this program will provide, and it's high quality.
So does a student access that page as well and know if they can, like, go right at the bottom and go, okay, I missed something down there, or is that just for the teacher to see?
The students see something on their end too. They're pretty upfront about the data with the kids, which it was a pushback for some teachers to accept. It told them what grade level they're at or where they need help. But we're recognizing that the kids are super competitive and they want to do well. And so this student in particular is like this. He's on 21. I'm gonna do that. And so you can see that the students leveling up.
Nice.
And they're tracking it and they're creating weekly goals in all grade levels.
What's morphology? I don't understand the term.
Are you looking at ELA?
The vocabulary.
What is that?
It's morphology is a part of,
I just don't know what it means.
I know it. Is that under?
It's under vocabulary category.
They were word meaning, your relationships and more fun.
Okay, I can explain it or Jerry's Googling it.
Okay, so I thought.
Let's take 10 minutes. Yeah,
Stephen. Reading.
yeah.
Study of words, linguistics, how they relate to one another within language. So connecting words and using them together and in logical format.
So this is getting neatly. Would we ever be to a point, and I know that there's no child left behind, but would we ever be to a point that there would be somebody that we would hold over to take a grade over?
Oh, that's enough before.
Does that happen? Okay. Okay, somehow we'd like to believe that that didn't happen.
So the research, like anything in education, it flows this way and this way. And we got really way over here with, we don't retain kids, their research shows it doesn't help. There's more harm than good but there is a place for that, so it's kind of
Good.
swinging back and
Okay.
the parents have a big say.
Yeah.
But read by third law is still a law that we have to have meetings about. And that is retention is part of an option if the families choose. Yeah. Okay,
This is personally, this is gonna take me a while to get my head around. This isn't, it's not easy to understand as a non-professional. Like the old, like what I'm gonna say with this standard-based assessment. Where you had an overall glossary there, the proficiency that creates. The data's there, it's just gonna take a while for you to present it to us in a way that we can swallow it once we prove it, so.
yep. I hope it made a little bit more sense. Norm versus standards.
I think the thing that keeps coming out for me is the rate of growth. That seems to be a real positive indicator for you folk in the evaluation of an individual, not necessarily the attainment, but that rate of.
I'm intrigued by the tool for the teachers.
Yeah.
On the individual to be able to see this, and then from the student aspect to be able to the healthy competition piece. That relates to me in a big way, and so that's a cool motivator for some.
It is, yes. If you ever want to come in, my door's open. If you want to, I can't exactly show all of that here, but if you want to sit down and I can show you some things. And how it relates, because you weren't there for the old data, which they were, and how that was presented. I'm happy to sit with you.
I will say the old data, I feel like it's a little bit easier to interpret.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's easier to describe to people, but it's not easier for teachers to prescribe instruction.
That's right. I can see that difference. To me, that makes a difference. Because I look at it as a teacher, how am I gonna fix that?
And
This is the ability to drill down to be able to see.
yes, and I would like that it was a culture shift in our school to move to this, because we were used to, look at all my classes in green, and we felt good, but we weren't progressing, moving, there's always room for growth.
Because I used, when I was in your past life, you would present. And I would always go away saying where the state level was at and where we were.
That's not put on.
And that was one of the things that I got accustomed to, and I was able to, when people would ask me, oh, what's going on for school? What here for school? This is, and I had that ready data point to basically talk to you about this great job you guys are doing. So somewhere along the line, will we be able to see that relationship to either peers and or state level? Okay.
Yeah, there is a percentile rank. It will do percentile rank as well, in the data. It's hard to get a perfect world of both, but I will tell you what's better for the constituents. Being like, oh, our STAR data was amazing, and then you have to explain the SBA data, right? Because that's happened before, and I know you specifically have asked me, I thought we were doing amazing in this grade. And then it's like, what happened there? So now it's not sugarcoated, it's parallel.
Yeah, there was a period of time here, not too distant, where it felt like the state had gamed the books, and all of a sudden they went better overall across the state. That was a feeling I went away with, and so I'll stay, keep my attention and see where this shakes out.
Well, we can see behind the curtain right now. The data, we can look behind the curtain. So.
Thank you, Cindy. That's wonderful.
One of the things, change is tough.
It is.
Growth, change, So,
Well, I just hope that, well, I know you guys have a plan of attack for this, and I know that these kids are hungry somewhere, they weren't figuring out where they come here to do that. I know that there's been a lot of sickness, has that helped, has that affected any of the testing?
The flu apocalypse?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. We are just now getting back to our 90% attendance per week. Again, just these last couple of weeks. So
Yeah,
that's good.
it's rocked our house, so.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
cities,
Big time.
okay.
Right, moving on down to item number 9, item or announcements and recognition. March 20th is snow makeup day if needed. I don't think we're gonna need that. March 27th, new release. April 1st through the 3rd is spring conferences. I feel like there's something missing there. The literacy night, is that coming up?
Yeah, I'm gonna, I talk so long, but I will, I have the plus.
Okay, did I miss something? Okay.
Nope.
And then need motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion. We'll agree.
Discussion?
So, the McKinney, there was not been just.
Yeah, and, I'm not sure why that child didn't show up again for, we talked about that.
It's on the new list that I printed
Yeah.
on the back,
Yeah.
second page.
We put this in, so that was an individual that we were
Mhm.
not jumping down. So,
It's not this.
and something that we got put it in. It's just like in there. If I did that. We thought you, I thought this was the, you had. Thank you, Jim.
This one, the access to open.
Well, no, so this, so where I was gonna go with that. Is when you and I were planning. This planning with Jerry, we had that discussion about an individual and.
Yeah,
And so, and when I was going through the budget, approved budget, I didn't see in this consent agenda that. Even though Jerry's gonna. Talk to me to just. I guess reality. I was in my mind prepared to talk through with you and I during with Andrea and Jerry that day, but it doesn't, it's not applicable for me. Yeah, Wes, just for clarity, we had every kind of attention, Jerry and Andrea during the planning stage helped us understand an individual charge for students that are being bused or being driven in and out of district and the charges between
The district.
Woods Canal and us. And that's, at some point in time, we would make a future request for funds for Wood Canal to share that cost. Is that the way that was going to shake out?
But there you go,
Okay.
North Mesa, and
Oh, I'm sorry, lost my head. But anyway, so I guess even for me, it's not applicable.
Okay.
So moving on.
Yes. And then in here, we had a food service person that showed up in the purple cap there, a person that he had initiated a food service contract with. That's what that,
The cap, not cabinet.
I think $1,300. Just like,
Any other comments? No? Take to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Like, here, this, the 15th, I was going to see it.
Correct. That's one. And it's on track.
Did you go along?
Pardon?
You should go.
No, it's up to Jerry to, you never get into some, but Jerry had initiated it. But it's wonderful.
Moving on then to 11.
Yep.
Moving on to principal superintendent reports, Jerry.
That's me, there you go.
Jerry, thank you.
Four items for you. Did we put the parent square, slides up there? We, paid to, join a communication tool for our families. And, we kind of have what we call kind of a slow start. People that were comfortable with it started using it. And, last week we did a training on it for our staff, but it's so widely appreciated and accepted, and so many families are already pretty well acquainted with both it and technology for communication. It's showing itself to be quite successful already without needing a hard rollout. So I have, what I wanted to show you was I get a big data report on all the communications that go out with your parents. And I can see who's doing it and what form it's doing, when it's going out, how many people are responding, in what ways that they're responding, things that are a part of it, surveys and alerts and forms. And so it's a fabulous tool for me to see, particularly already, how fantastic this tool has been with just the soft start. And so we get a whole variety of different reports that I click on regularly to see what information is going out. And so let's see. The one at the bottom there says typical, there are 2 contacts per students or families. So that means already about 88% of our families are interacting with this tool already. Right. And so that's just kind of a soft rollout of information. And so you can see that most of them are still accessing via their email, but we have a growing number of them that are accessing it via the app, meaning they can have it on their phone and they'll get a notification on their phone if they got a message from school. They can read it right on their phone, wherever they're. Okay. Not all the families want to get it via the app, but many will or do, or they can do both. And so you can see every grade level has been receiving communication so far. And Mrs. Breeze is a strong communicator with her families. Yeah, you can see that there. And today I set up a user group for the board in Parent Square, so that I can start figuring out how to communicate with you guys via that, and send you updates, simple things like we have a pizza night or whatever kind of events.
Do we have to get under this app, what you're saying?
You don't have to do anything, but you can, and it might make it easier for you to communicate, yeah. And so, how's your staff? That's
Elected too. Yeah.
Shit.
It's not bad.
So you'll continue to get emails that you like to have. But if you wish to choose to grab the app, you can get stuff.
You can also know, like, if you do have the app, you know, if the school's going in lockdown, you can know if there's a fire, you can know if there's certain things that you might be up to date on if you're interested.
And it'll alert rather than waiting to check your email.
Good.
And so basically, what we're doing is moving into how people communicate now, largely. They don't necessarily respond to phone calls. They do respond to texts a lot of times, but that's problematic too in how we're texting families. But this allows us to communicate with families how they communicate now. And I'm very happy with it, and I love the data that I can see 100% of our families are contactable via this tool currently, and probably will. I don't know if we can increase it, but they might be access the app and make it.
So that GSD 54, that would be out of that.
You can actually, we have a QR code that you can, get and we'll send that to you if you wish to use that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm really pleased. We might fade out next year some of the other tools that we used to communicate with families because it seems to be so accessible. One of the things that if you remember when we did surveys with the CEE, there was a Center for Educational Excellence. And we paid them a good amount of money for a very robust community survey, right? And we're required to do community outreach in terms of getting feedback on how we're doing and how. What I'm hoping to do is take this tool we have for communicating with families and take some of the things that we learned from CEE and use some of those questions so that we don't have to pay for another tool to get it feedback from our families. Because frankly, we have great questions, they have great data, but a lot of times it was only just a few people, right, that responded. And so it's like, okay, well, everybody's happy, but that's 10 of them, right? And I think that when our families are really well versed in this, we might be able to chunk out poll and surveys in smaller chunks so that we can really get, I think, some better data on how our families are responding and using our school. So I think it's gonna do probably in some sense triple service. It's gonna replace a few of our communication tools and be a tool we can use to gather feedback and information more efficiently in line with how people operate. I wanted to give this to you guys. This is a summary of all of the state election, school levy election funds, and it's how they performed across the state. And I want to I was to draw your attention to the very top where you can see kind of a summary of how things went across the state. One of the things that really surprised me is how many districts have two levies. They seem to have somewhat given up on bonds, or or maybe they're just waiting. I don't know, but a lot of districts you'll see have both a capital levy and a EP&O levy. So the EP&O is kind of your meat and potatoes. It's learning and staffing and administration and electric bills and things like that. Capital projects like Olympia, they ran a second levy, and they that was for technology and security equipment and a few facility projects along the way, right? So just an interesting trend for us to know of how schools. Sometimes I wonder why are certain schools able to do certain things and others not. They just ask for a lot of money from the community. So so information for you to digest. That's statewide.
If you look Marion Knight and Shelton, their EP&O levies. And North Mason did run theirs.
And they're not right yet. I think they're going to.
And it was just about, isn't the end of this year that they're out?
Yeah, they're gonna run it in it. I think they're planning to run it in April. The superintendent I communicated with, she wants to come and meet you guys, and she kind of recognizes that we feed good kids into our school and wants to come and say, trying to arrange that. And so that's awesome because these are important people for the community. You should know them. So I'm working on that. Moving down that bus you don't see down there in the morning. Yeah, it's gone. Poof, poof. We put it on the Gov Deals, and which is widely used by lots of districts and organizations, and it went quick and it went well. I was shocked. I was going to be happy if they hauled it away for $100, but they offered us $3,800. I think almost $4,000 that we got for that bus, and it was Wilcox Farms over in Yelm, and they came over with their mechanic and they got started. Took a little while, a little help from Herbie. But they got going and they're very happy with it because it's, way better than their 30-year-old bus that they're hauling people around and farm with. So,
Chickens and things.
no, they give tours of their farm. And, the one they had is pretty good.
So now that $4,000 ish, would that go into a sinking fund or for the future bus?
Nice for all the new.
Yeah,
buses.
I was trying to angle for some fun things, but I was told in no certain terms that I don't think can only go towards yellow bus funds. I
There you
tried.
go, Andrea.
She,
It was going to be yellow fine because it's just yellow line.
I assume no, I hadn't.
yeah,
You're keeping the guy out of the till.
We had a policy last time, policy 1821 that talked about board and conduct and expectations, and we're like, well, that's just like our operating agreement in large part, and it's not a required policy, it's a suggested policy. And then we discussed it at our planning meeting and looked at it and said, yeah, that's really just what we have for our operating agreement, and thought that we would just put it aside moving forward. So we didn't want to do that without mentioning it to everybody. But if you feel differently, you want to bring it back up to me, please let me know.
So, Lance, did you catch that clearly?
I did, yeah. I totally agree.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that what we did, Abby and I, and we just looked at it again and it seemed redundant.
I'm shocked and appalled. No, I agree. I agree with that. Yeah, we're already operating like that. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, and side note, we're going to try to adopt Grapeview's operating agreement at my school district. So they like that.
In depth.
Yes, yeah, we'll cross the name.
Let's leave it on there.
It's very valuable tool. And I told them, we need to do this while we're getting along, right? And before the fighting starts. So, moving down some time ago, a few years ago, I think now they started the Zool lawsuit around vaping and advertising to kids and marketing to kids. And so we just finished their signature thing today, and they're gonna send us, I think, our fourth and last check for $711. So we'll
What does that money go towards?
not yellow buses. It's kind of whatever we want, but I was thinking we would orient it towards some things that the counselor might need or.
Really cool out of mobile payment.
Oh, it's been over a couple of years. I don't really recall. It might be a few thousand.
At one time.
It's less.
I just give, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
When we looked at the millions of dollars that were out there and it got distributed.
They spread it around, yeah. And, yeah, so moving forward, there were some questions about McKinney-Vento and what exactly that means. It's a federal law. And we're obligated to comply. They check us, they monitor us, and violations can be a civil rights finding, I understand. Sometimes it's just good for the children, so we do it. Other times they get stretched out a little bit and we have to question some things. I did that a couple of years ago, neighboring district, but you were asking about the cost of it. In 23-24 was spent $3,000. 24-25 was about 20. Although some of that bill came this year, right? They looked as late, but it was for the previous year, and right now we're at about 25-26, about 10,000. Although we will share that cost with North Mason because that's where that child is residing. And so that cost will be split with them. So I sent to all of your email a little video from the link from OSBI's website about McKinney-Vento. It's a little short on law, a little more strong on touchy-feely, but it does send a message of instances when why it's valuable to be assisting these children. I also gave you it should be in your packet, a one pager from OSBI on the requirements of McKinney-Vento, which does include transportation. Largely, we've left it at transportation when we've done it, but it does allow for a lot of other things to sort of those children. Its objective is clear, which is to try to keep kids consistently in a quality educational environment as much as possible. So,
What would be the date that this was enacted?
oh, it's been quite some time. Yeah, it's not a new law. I don't have that. It was renewed in 2015.
Was it in a federal mandate?
Yes, yeah. And it was renewed in 2015. I recall reading.
It's interesting how you went back to 23, 24. Was it enacted? Did we have these costs before year 23, 24?
I'm sure, yeah, it's been, it just vacillates, it just depends on, every year will be different.
Okay, so some years we may not have had it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it all of a sudden, I don't know why, it hit me. It hit me in a way that it kind of stung. And my first reaction was what I think Lance and I were talking earlier, you had alluded to the reasonableness in that third paragraph. And my fear was being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And again, trust that we're asking the right kinds of questions.
It's a very fair, there's a lot of people in our society that take advantage of programs that are meant to help with the hate values and take advantage of them. I keep an eye on them. We had last year a family that 3 years ago, they came into hard times and moved into our district with another family, and then the next year they stayed there, and I had a lot of conversations with OSBI about that, and we did draw the line at the end of that experience, and it didn't continue.
Well, I just got appreciated bearing with me when I was doing less math and I was able to reconcile in different like backwards, but it came out that it was just an individual and amount of money that we were talking about, but when you did the math and you saw the distance traveled at 72.5 cents, was sobering. It adds up.
Yeah.
And so to Edry's credit to bring it to my attention, and then now we get it out in the open even more.
And, it's always a calculation. What is the most efficient way for us to do that? Pay for a bus driver and a bus, have a van, the contract with an organization. None of them really are super cheap, right? So, with the goal of keeping our kids in school, which is awesome. So, as you are all very well aware, the legislature is in session. I think we're at page 45. And now all bills have gone through hearing the committees and or not. And those that made it will be there starting the debate. So I used to get kind of worked out, but now I know nothing. You don't know nothing until it's done, right? And so a couple of the things that are present and educators are discussing around out are some things that could be problematic. Levy equalization is a thing that they have a complex formula calculating for districts that are property poor, and so they can get extra money to help make things more equal, I guess. And that looks to be like it may be cut back, but I don't think we get any levy, so that won't hurt us at all. So it is a big topic across the state because some districts could lose quite a bit of money. An interesting one is that you can see in my notes, it says ALE. So that's an alternative learning experience, law that governs, the online schools that I used to run, for example. And so, though they can sometimes get levy equalization money because they're in the district that they're probably for, even though their kids are all around the state. So, that's, looks like it's gonna be on the chopping block. So,
We don't have that.
that doesn't affect us whatsoever, but it is a big topic of conversation among districts around the state.
So if you take this sheet that you've given me, by the way, thank you. And the bold text, are those the ones that are likely to be enacted?
They're all in discussion. They made it through the process, the meat grinder, chopping block or whatever, and now they're to be put before the body to vote.
I check and I look at this ESSB 6247 requiring school board to become trained on school funding and finance, and then the asterisk, this bill could hold school directors financially liable for actions in imaging to every issue. Where in the world is this come from? This is the first I've seen.
Yeah, I've seen that right there. I'll have to take a look at that one.
Wow.
The very high level is that the board is ultimately responsible for approving our budget. And if we write a crazy budget that says we're gonna have 275 students next year, and you guys think that's a great idea, and we budget for having that many students, and then they don't show up and we end up broke in a year. That's a bad decision on the board's part to listen to what we said. So we would never. I would never do that. But that's a very exaggerated logic.
So that literally would come after our asset? By the way, school board compensation. First time seeing that into.
Look, they schools compensation for work. Very, and if they do it.
Well, you want to kill local volunteerism time. 6247 would just about be the last nail in the coffin.
So, you can see all those bills, who knows how they'll run through. TK is one of the ones that would hurt us. And they are recommending an overall, funding cut of like 25%, or basically cut the slots, the number of kids that could be part of TK program. That's not law yet, but that is a program we have, and it could hurt us. Well, it seems as if we'll still be able to have our program. And based on the numbers that they've presented us, I think our program would still be okay, functional. And so, they're doing other things like, bus depreciation extension, right? They won't, they'll make it drag out a few more years before they'll let you get a new bus. Right? So
Get more value on it.
just a few more bucks that they're gonna drive the old Chevy a couple more years. Running Start is a very interesting, it doesn't directly affect us because it will affect our high school kids. So I've heard a lot of high school principals and superintendents that run high schools saying that if the Running Start program is very difficult for them to function with them because those kids leave their school.
So in other words, you've got somebody that's an overachiever. And they get out of high school earlier and they go to Olympic, then Olympic gets their FTE.
But even before that, so they could be a sophomore and they could enroll in Running Start and they're no longer at the high school. Right, but the high school still does have some responsibilities with these kids in terms of counseling and some of the problems that the school district faces, that then those kids, the school district, we have responsibility for monitoring their attendance and their progress. And we contact families and we have accountability reporting that the college doesn't have.
So it's not a money issue?
It's partially a money issue,
Is it?
but it's both, yeah. So, they're losing enrollment, right? So that means however many of their kids are gone and they don't have the enrollment that they can use to then generate teachers to have programming, right? So now a lot of their higher performing kids are leaving
Why are they losing enrollment?
because they're now going to the junior college.
No, losing. Are they losing enrollment in general? Or is this just the Running Start deal?
So this,
Because I'll tell you, both of my kids went to that, and it was a huge benefit to them and our family. And I think this is primarily a money thing. And you bring up a good point, Jerry, but all these greater good people, well, the greater good is for those kids.
Yeah. So, it's complex. They have fewer kids to provide funding and programming options for, right? And the kids that are the higher performing kids often leave, right? And so that changes the dynamics of the school. There's money, obviously, that is a part of that. But we only go to 8th grade, so it's not really our beast to carry. But that's one little thing that they're looking at reducing some funding for.
That would be sad.
Yeah, that would be sad. What's interesting to me is when I read the Shelton Journal and I look at in addition to Shelton High School, I believe there's 2 other alternative schools also in Shelton.
Yeah.
That takes away from the Shelton High School, like FTEs, and takes to go. And I find that fascinating to me. Again, we're trying to accommodate kids who.
Yeah, so I'm
fit into the school.
Yeah, we're familiar with those alternative programs. Mr. Bruni, who spoke with my wife, and we helped me get that job at Choice High School. So, in some sense, those schools kind of safe to those kids. And they were kids that likely were gonna leave, they were failing, they needed something different, and so they created an alternative kind of school that creates a place where they can learn in a little bit different way, a little bit different pace, and a little bit different structure. And so it does pull from Shelton High School, but it's very likely that those kids were not thriving in Shelton High School anyway. And so it creates a whole new school environment. And so
The other one correlated with the college up there, the local college, not Choice,
that was
Cedar.
yeah.
They moved it down.
Yeah, so I don't know much about that, but I know it's. So, those are the legislature, they're gonna do their thing and we won't really know until they're all done and what the pain, my projections are that we won't be hurt to that. There could be some money for MSOC, that's a debate, that they were recognizing that we need some more money for MSOCs. Those are non-employee related costs, because our costs go up and, they haven't kept up with it. And just one example that you see at the bottom of my notes is that, for next year, our insurance company gave us a heads up, they anticipate that our costs will go up 18%, right? And that's a pretty small increase compared to other years. But the state, when they're feeling generous, might give us a 5% increase, right? That's decreasing, the gap is increasing, it's kind of dead by 1,000 cuts essentially. That is my report on questions on things. If you have any questions.
If we know that that's going up, or can we raise for that and
just comes out of the money we have, right? We hope they'll give us some more money for MSOPs, right? And so that 18% is for a few $1,000 that we don't have to spend on something else.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cindy?
Okay, just a few bullet items because they weren't all listed there. Lunch with loved ones event, our PTSO event on Valentine's Day was so good. It was packed. So homemade heart-shaped pizzas that
They're really
Annie
cute.
rolled out like
And the school,
handmade crust.
at the school.
Yeah, I should have, I'll send you a picture, but anyway, it was, beautiful, so that was great, huge success. And we do have a character strong assembly this Friday, no, yep. So the 27th is Friday, at 1:40, student led, if you're around.
140?
Yep, 1:40. And then there's literacy night next week, and that's, on the 4th, on Wednesday, from 5 to 7. It's one of our Title IX family engagement activities where dinner's served. So Annie and Heather are cooking spaghetti, garlic bread, homemade cookies, Caesar salad, all the things. If you would like to stop by, that's a fun time too. And we have, I'll pass that out in just a second. PTSO is also throwing a Gatoroke, say Babin, a karaoke, but Gator, event, first annual on the 27th of March, where you can come in and sing karaoke. At the school, in the, yep, so they are really excited. You want to come sing, and it's to raise money, for, they're trying to really raise money for Camp Seymour. Because that's such a huge expense, so they're committed to that. Professional development day last week, we touched on it, so Jared Parent Square, iReady training, so we had 2 trainings. And then we did a lot of work on developmentally appropriate behavior, as a staff. And then 2 grants. Last year, we wrote the grant for, based on our civil rights review, they identified multilingual language learner, having a certified person to teach our students who are multilingual learners. We didn't have that, but we actually got the grant that paid for someone's endorsement through college. So Miss Williams, just so happens I did not plan this, but look at all of her work with our multilingual students. You can see, head cabeza, cabello, like she's already doing that work with our students, teaching them English. It is really cool. We never really had a population of multilingual learners before, so she's like worked so hard to do that. So it was a pretty cool thing that we were able, state funded grant, I think with some federal money, could pay for that. And then Miss Nielsen, speaking of risk pool, she is at right response training, which is de-escalation strategies, dealing with students in crisis, all of that. She's going to be our district trainer, and our risk pool, we wrote a grant for that, and so they paid for the majority portion of that training, which is not cheap. So that's where she's at this week. Okay, and then last thing, ASB fundraiser. It's at the boathouse. You can order ahead if you'd like. There's a link, and forget the percentage. 40%?
Healthy, I mean, it's a really good fundraiser.
Yeah, and the kids get to help like bus tables, and you can either eat in and eat in or order ahead. But it's really fun, and we raise quite a bit of money for ASB, so it's
So lovely that the Bub House offers that.
yeah,
This is one of their normal nights that they're not open.
right, yeah, so they open for us and
Interesting.
families.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Now on down to operational services, budget and operational status report.
All right, so the information that I have is through the months of January. I can't really back as March, right? All right, the first slide that will come to the is enrollment. That's looking at our year-to-date average of 30 hours of January and now and about 20 student activity higher than the field flow. So you don't say, see, which various things creeping up all year.
So why did I think that mean when it's prior to me not that long ago? He was there out there, it's 2:30, 90. Am I hopeful out? Don't have to.
I don't know.
Okay, I just, but 2:30 is where it is. Okay.
What's that?
But that was hard. That's what I did, just, I don't know what I think of it.
I'll check.
Okay.
Okay.
I sorry to
No, it's okay.
push you through this, but
I might have shared, so that actual enrollment for this month is more, this is an average. So I might have told you that we had 239 students, which is about where we are.
okay, that's it. That's it.
And this is the year to date average. I know this all affects the retention month. And so. We're right around 2 more kids.
So that 7th grade classes. Getting right up there.
Yeah, the second grade class is big, the second grade class is big for second grade, and the sixth grade class is. All big classes.
Well, okay. Thank you.
All right, so we're watching that, Cindy talked to me a lot about what she knows as far as what's coming up around the moment. We have a few students doing the outfit trip, so we can. Get to the spring. And that's a common trend for the spring. This growth that we've had throughout the year is actually a little bit uncommon. It's usually a high water mark in October and November and then a trickle off. A little different for us this year, but exciting to watch. It's good to see classes and schools there. All right, this is our revenues and expenditures. How we're looking this year compared to what we thought we'd be looking at this year. So through the month of January, we've taken in about $176,000 more in revenue than we thought we would this. And we've spent a little bit less than we thought we would. So that's a great story guys have. Okay, so this is the same, kind of same trend that we've seen throughout the year, but that January column shows what we spent in the month of January. And the bottom right hand corner is what we're projecting our balance to be left over at the end of the year. And we're not on track to exceed what we budgeted, and so it's at least. Any questions about those numbers?
Being down in certificate yards. $2,800, that's just.
That's being right on track as far as I'm concerned, to be that close to what you budgeted in
Yeah,
salaries.
yeah.
And I think $125,000.
Okay. Okay. All right.
$3 million of our budgets. All right, so next slide. So this slide is something that Jerry and Cindy and I have been talking about a lot. And we found out, so if you look at the very far right hand side of that line graph, that where there's dotted line graph, that's what we're projecting this year to look like. We're projecting our ending fund balance to be higher than it's ever been in the past. So talking strategically, and we talked a little bit, if you remember last month, about what should we do this year to spend on our students that it's here, instead of driving us receiving that revenue. So the curriculum's gonna take a big bite out of that, but there's still gonna be quite a bit left over for us to talk about how to best spend that money on our students and on our school.
Yes, and part of it's some budget. It's the number.
Well, last month, we looked at the very end of the presentation, we talked kind of high level about ideas and things that we might need. And we've started doing some work with the quote now on painting the middle school. We gotta get a couple more quotes to just kind of get an idea of what those things might cost. So we're gathering those numbers from here and probably.
I'm sorry.
The exterior of middle school is what we.
And just the middle school, not the other outer buildings or anything?
Or not.
It was last time, so.
Oh, before I got here, I didn't know, but it's,
What's the original paint for?
It's peeling off the back, typically where it gets a lot of sun, where it's been at least a decade.
During my last trip here, when we planned, Tony got hold of me and took me outside the gym area and the water thing. And there may be some things that we're gonna have to do there in time. I came up with I had some simple ideas, but I think in reality, they have to put some sort of a screen over that. So it's
we're working on taking that list that we started working on last month and getting some dollars attached to it, so we can work together with you guys and talk about. What's most important, and what's least important, what should be spent on this year, what could wait. So, this is a hot topic. But a great problem to have, I'll keep saying that for sure. Okay, the other fund balances that we have is very similar to the numbers that you saw last year. No big differences in any of the funds. And then this last page of all is just my kind of look ahead of what's budgeting, what we're talking about here. The enrollment numbers continuing to trend up, and then feel like we just got done wrapping up last year and starting to look at next year, looking at budgeting, watching what the legislative session is doing. First steps for us for budgeting is talking about enrollment. So Cindy actually just popped into my office this month. We're talking about when do we start surveying our families next year, when do we start asking them, like when looking at TK, patients for students to come TK. So looking at enrollment, and then we've already sent out surveys to our staff, asking them what their intent is for next year. So we're just asking them, do you plan on coming back? Do you want to come back? Are you looking at other opportunities? Are you looking at taking leaves? So heard back from about half of our staff, and half that I've heard back from so far is planning on staying, but so no surprises. Okay, and I did one little extra slide after we sent this out to you, so it's a really good news story. We get audited in the Washington State Auditor's Office on different things. They audit so many different things. But this year they did an audit of the 24-25 school year. They call it an assessment audit, and they do a really high level look at the district. They ask a bunch of questions of me on specific things. So they actually get all of our financial data through a data upload. They get sent automatically to every district basis, and the auditors look at that data. They look for any anomalies, they look for anything that's outside of what they would see in a normal trend. And they write up a list of questions and send it to us, and we get to answer their questions. And based on what they see in that data and how we answer those questions, they decide how good do we think we're doing, do they think the district is doing at keeping our financials in line, following adequate control, safeguarding our finances. And in that review this year, they did not see anything that caused them any concerns. Because our district is so small, they don't go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, but they do a lot of analysis of those trends. And didn't see anything concerning and favorable. So I did, there's one word on that slide that is inaccurate right now, but will be accurate very shortly. A full audit report is available on the Grapeview School District website. It's not quite there yet, but it will be there in a very short period of time. But it is available to state auditors. Just already told us.
Is this the same audit? Before your time when Tracy was here and I was pinpointing that haven't gotten into an executive session and said we'd be in 20 minutes and we were in 35 minutes or whatever it was. Is that the kind of stuff?
Yes. Yes. Okay, so yeah, and they looked at opening again shared, and they looked at all of our board meetings. And there were a couple things that we didn't do exactly right, but I think they've done great. I'm sorry.
So when you say looking at it via the recordings, is that what?
Yeah, they look over the agenda, what we have written on the agenda. And then they look at what actually happened. What they found this year are so minor that they don't consider them findings. For example, we noted that we were going to an executive session for a very common reason this last year, and we talked about something
We talked about what?
else. Nothing, we did not do anything wrong, nothing like that, but just even.
Typically,
Yeah.
you were very specific about either their performance or there was something else that was just as an educational side to the board. Interesting.
It was the meeting where we talked about the litigation, the lawsuit.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
That is not something. And we didn't have it worded that way. Like we should have. But those were so minor and easy for us to explain,
Yeah.
they moved.
And that was the well.
Yeah.
We call it the well.
And it's very common right now, there's auditors who are looking at opening them at every district is getting that same level of scrutiny, and she said this is nothing that causes concern, nothing for us to cause. She was very complimentary of our work from our communication and the records that we had, so it's a great story. Responsibility for them.
you got it. Awesome, thank you, Andrea. No new business. No legislative updates, PTA, well, there's a comment right here. And now we're down to policy items. So, I'm looking. At this down. Looking for a motion policy of 2018.
So are we past the first reading point? If there's any comment around.
Should I call for that? Is question started? I vote.
Yes, we're trying to approve that, just whether or not. Stating around power and state. 21.
The first reading on policy 2108. Any discussion, right?
Yeah.
No discussion?
So Jerry, this is one that you guys are recommending.
Yeah, we have the policy already, it's just being updated, yeah, that totally set.
All right.
Okay, and then so we'll take on down to policy 5011. Sexual harassment of district staff prohibited.
We did this one just recently.
This is for first reading though, right?
Yes, correct. But this is an update to it. Yes. Is there anything that's wrong with it?
No. Can we move on?
Yep.
Okay, so first reading for policy 6220, bid request for proposal requirements. I'd like to add something in here where it says, okay. Okay, maybe I can't find it. Yeah, I don't see anything.
Essentially, it's a policy they already have and they updated the number to be more consistent with inflation.
Okay.
This is another one, this way, when you amended Jerry, because in other words, there's some red writing here, the conservative clause.
They're just upping the prices of everything. Most of $4 is $5,000. Yes, that much. Okay. Down to policy approval. May I please have a motion for new policy 2170, career and technical education?
Second.
Thank you. Discussions? Questions? No?
So Jerry, on this one, I mean, this CTE thing, we don't have this policy right now then.
Right. So we've looked at this several times. The original one that came to us was very oriented towards high school programs. And what we did is I took it back and I reworked it and worked it to be more oriented towards the type of CTE programs that are appropriate at our level. So that's what we have here. We viewed it a couple of times.
We have currently we have one CTE.
Yes. We have three middle school teachers and one of them is teaching an elective that we were able to get approved as a career and technical ed course. It's a very complex process of approval. Very complex process of approval. We we're going to hopefully this year is a little more time available, be able to try to add another course. We've already talked about that course. He's teaching the course. Now it's a matter of process of aligning it up for there's SIP codes and there's VIP codes and there's committee approvals and a whole long list of things that have to be done. We're teaching it, but it's not necessarily approved as a CTE.
What is it on?
It's a technology class, they're doing coding and some other.
That's right.
Okay.
But the real CP
Correct.
Is what?
broadcasting.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
We will never have a whole bunch because we don't have very many teachers, right? But we will shoot to try to have some that are oriented towards what our children at the developmental level and what we can provide, because it's really dependent on the skill sets of the teachers we have. And
Okay, we'll go vote for approval. Sorry, bring it down to a vote, please, and not mean to say approval. Policy 2170, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so moving on down to future agenda items. Next board meeting is March 25th.
And Jerry, I would be out of the country.
out of the country, good for you. I think.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Visiting family and sister.
Oh, wonderful. Really. Good for you.
26, 27 school year calendar.
Yeah, that's a stretch, but I put it on there anyway, because I'd like to have it open. There's a few steps that go, we have a draft. Some teachers looking at it and then it'll come back to us and then we run it through the teachers union again, and then we'll bring it back to it. So it's possible to be very.
Move on down to reflections and comment.
So I have a request. So with the house, I have a 75-inch flag on screen TV. And when I'm sitting here and you're making presentations, I'm really having to work hard at it. Is there any possible way that in the technology improvement arena, we could get a larger screen?
Absolutely. That's actually, we've already had. Yeah. So what we've had that conversation already, we're wanting to take one of the new technologies, since this is a teaching space anyway. Put one of the larger one screens in here and move that into the conference room. So brilliant. Thank you.
Again, it would really help. And I need a little.
It's more the colors.
We're gonna get a really big screen from.
I mean, thank you for the fact that you provided your. Or not but your acceptance like you did, that helped me a lot. Because, boy, I mean, I'd have been sitting up there like a. So it would have. And then, so that was my request, and then observation is, nice job helping us understand this new assessment skill. So stay tuned, just keep continuing that, but it's good stuff. Appreciate it. And like I said, I think you heard me talk to you earlier, you're doing a nice job. Maybe it's campaign. Appreciate it. So, I'll leave it.
Nate?
I asked a lot of questions, and I appreciate you taking the time to answer, and I'll be honest with you, I am way impressed with the new assessment tool, because I understand it, and especially I think for the teachers to be able to go out and see what they need to teach on, because I think previously that was a difficult task that we asked. I mean, almost impossible, because how would you figure it out? So I like that. It'll be interesting to see how. I'll be interested to see how the teachers like, and I'm surprised that you got pushback. And now, don't get me wrong, change is always difficult, but I'm surprised that you did get pushback, because I would have thought it would have been a great tool. No, thank you for being patient.
Got it. Thank you, Lance. Wes, do you want to say anything?
Oh, that's a dangerous thing to ask me.
No.
The no, I thought the meeting was good. I was, of course, kind of disappointed in some of the data. I've been seeking a therapy group to deal with it. No, like Les, I was sort of laboring under the opinion that we were doing really great, and then that data kind of burst my bubble a little bit. But it's good to start from knowledge. So anyway, I'm sure we're up for the challenge, and that's about it. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Wes. Or Jerry, let's hear from you.
Let's see what I would say. Thank you to you two for the work between organizing and make this all run smoothly. And it looks to me when they do their job well, and these things smooth, because they were all prepared activity that you guys and you as well, because you're getting it over there. You're doing good. You're really doing smoothly.
Can I oh, I'm sorry. Can I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
After you've gone.
Okay. I went to lunch with loved ones, and I had such a great time just to see all the kids' happy faces and everything in the back. I look forward to the class tonight, and I'm looking forward to the end of the school year and see how they did that, because I have faith in them, even though they're not where they want to be. I really think that they're gonna do stellar work in the months to come. I also have a question on to maybe, is there a fun activity that we can purchase to help with their certain grade levels? Reading levels or mathematics skills that would fit into their
Support team.
like free time. You got free time, go play Smile, or go find another app or something that will help them with their math facts or their vocab or whatever. We just went through this. What's an adverb? So adverbs, verbs, is there a curriculum or a fun activity that we can purchase with our said monies to help with their academic excellence?
The new math curriculum comes with pre-made center like games that are yes.
But there was the reading app to access all these different books, and there was another, was it Smile? That was the other math thing that we all on to I'm just wondering if there's something like that we could spend our money on to help
So,
engage our children. So yeah, supplemental. Yeah.
yeah, there's billions of dollars worth of things out there that you can purchase for kids and questions. How much, how worthy are they? One of the things that I love about iReady, I've used it in my other schools and I'm a very strong proponent of it, is that there are supplemental materials that target the kids, right? So there's an assessment that is really valuable and a valuable teaching tool as opposed to just a grade. Right? But it also comes with a whole lot of targeted teaching opportunities that they can use on the computer to target their very specific needs. So there will be some of those things available. Most of the food is usually pretty full though. There's not tons of free time for those things, but that's why I asked about outside.
So like one or the other, you know, I'm all for, like Andrew said, to spend the money on the children that are here.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of what could benefit our children that are here this calendar year. Thank you.
Have him show you the games that are available on his MyPath. Just ask them.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, Wes, what else do you have to add?
Oh, just real quick, I found out that the head of Mason Transit Authority is a Gator. She's Amy Asher. She's very accomplished, and she went through our school and loved it, and I'm getting her together with Jerry and Cindy to possibly talk at like a character strong thing or do something, right? And I just thought it was kind of cool that one of our students is, heading that agency.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting. We've reached out to her and working on arrangements for attending maybe our 8th grade career oriented stuff or the other, what was the other course?
The power skills for life. Career exploration.
Yeah, thank you for that connection.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark it as 7:04. We're adjournment.
Right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Show me certification.
My wife. Well.
Okay.